Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Muhi Khwaja at the American Muslim Community Foundation, and today on the Muslim Philanthropy Podcast, we have on Somayyah Ghariani, who is the Executive Director of the Ikram Foundation. Welcome, Somayyah.
Thank you, Mohi. Good to be here with you.
Likewise. So share a little bit more about yourself and where you're located, and if you want to share where you went to school and other jobs that you've had and everything in between. Let's talk about it.
Sure. Again, thank you for doing this, for having us with you. We're a huge fan of the work that you do, and really excited to be here and let everyone know a little bit more about myself and about Ikram Foundation. Ikram Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We're located in Herndon, Virginia, Northern Virginia area, and our mission is to empower divorced and widowed Muslim women with education. So we provide educational grants specifically to divorced and widowed Muslim women all across the United States. A little bit about me. I've been in this area, Northern Virginia, for over 20 years now. And I went to school at George Mason University. I got a bachelor's degree in communication and psychology. And after that, I started my journey with Muslim nonprofits here in the Northern Virginia area. So I worked for another social service organization called Faith Social Services right out of school for about 6 years, where I started doing casework and then I transitioned into the fundraising coordinator. And after that, I kind of transitioned into Ikram as the executive director. So I've been in the nonprofit Muslim game for a while now and have really just found my calling and passion in it and really enjoy doing this type of grassroots work where you can really see the impact of the work you're doing. Something that makes us unique at Ikram, well, I found that a lot of other organizations like yourself, essentially, I'm just a one full-time employee, but I have an amazing program director, Saman Qureshi, who also helps me with promoting the mission and vision of Ikram, and we have an awesome intern that helps as well. And we're always looking for volunteers. So if you're interested in our cause, I definitely encourage you to reach out to us. But that's just kind of a little bit about myself, my journey to how I got here, and what I do at Ikram.
Yeah, definitely. Those small teams really create a high yield. So more power to you and the team at Ikram Foundation for all the wonderful work that you guys do. I wanted to also share that our paths crossed at Georgetown University for their nonprofit management executive certificate last year in the summer of 2020. Was really fortunate to see a diverse student base there and a lot of people taking advantage of that certificate program. So I'm glad that we got connected there.
Yes, I completely agree. It was an awesome experience having you as a classmate, and then also learning more about your organization, the awesome work that you do. And I think we definitely bonded on that, the small team energy and what that can do in small organizations like both of ours. So it was really cool having you with me on that journey.
Yeah, definitely. What would you say, I guess in regards to professional development, since we were both in that program, like what are those key things that help small organizations in the long run?
Sure, great question. So prior to this, I was working at a much large, fairly larger than this organization. So it was a very different dynamic when it came to like hierarchy and working with other departments. So I think when it comes to smaller organizations like Ikram, you really want to focus on, that one mission and vision. Sometimes people say, oh, you serve a really niche demographic, just divorced or widowed Muslim women, that's all you do. And I'm like, yep, that's all we do. And our vice chairperson, excuse me, always reminds us that, you have one defined service that you provide, but just do it really well. Do the best that you can to make impact in that one area with that small demographic, and you'll see, the impact in so many other areas. So we do have one service or program that we provide, which is the scholarships. But as we're growing, we're just about 6 years young. And so it's important to, as you focus and hone in on that one service you provide, to really see maybe partnering, outsourcing different, needs that your clients have, looking at other organizations and how you can partner or collaborate to offer different services, but to again bring it all back to that one service that you provide and show that that really is where that impact can be seen in the long run. And so we like to pride ourselves in the fact that we invest in education, and we all know that education really can be a powerful mechanism to change the lives of individuals, especially this demographic that we're working with, which is divorced and widowed Muslim women. A lot of our clients are single moms. So when you educate that group specifically, a lot of their children are now statistically have a higher chance of going to school. They're more stable. You're really investing in the community at large. And what you can do when you're a small organization and really focus on one thing is outsourcing, partnering, collaborating, kind of doing like what you're doing here, choosing to highlight the work of other organizations. And so it's really great to step out of that, kind of bubble that you might have when you provide a program or service and see how you can collaborate and partner with other organizations. So I've seen that that's really been helpful for us as at Ikram.
Yeah, definitely. As a community foundation, we want to be uplifting the voices of so many fantastic nonprofit organizations. And seeing that we're in Women's History Month, we are working with several organizations in our nonprofit directory that are women focused, women led. So wanted to ask you as well, what does Women's History Month mean to you personally?
Women's History Month. I was just talking to my program director about how we want to, make sure we really highlight this month as a month that we at Ikram really value. And even personally, of course, that I really value. Just as we look at maybe even our our cultural stereotypes or issues that we've had as Muslim women, really breaking those barriers, and then women at large, right? We've had our first woman vice president when Kamala Harris, and we're really seeing that quote unquote glass ceiling being shattered, and it means so much for me to have this position that I'm so grateful for, of being executive director at Ikram Foundation, working with women who are at a turning point in their lives after being divorced or widowed, being single mothers, and just finding inspiration in their stories and inspiration in stories of all the women in so many different organizations, a lot of the organizations that you'll feature on your podcast, and then at large, in our, in America and around the world, seeing that impact that can be made when it comes to having women in positions of power. Also, seeing what women's and grassroots efforts do. This is something we just highlighted in our Black History Month feature at Ikram Foundation, is let's look at the women in our community. What are they doing to make an impact? Even if they're not quote unquote in higher positions of power, what are they doing at a grassroots level to really bring the community together, to really impact the lives of other community members, to impact the lives of their children, other women's children? When you see a woman with an organization, especially nonprofit organizations, you see that she's doing so much all at one time and not necessarily always having the opportunity to speak up about the work that she does. So at Ikram, we hold that very close to our hearts, that we allow these women to be featured, to be highlighted. You're also doing the same. So it means a lot to me because I see the impact that women have at so many different levels, whether as a mom, as a teacher, as the leader in an organization, all of these different levels that women can impact a community and the community around them is so inspiring. And I encourage other organizations to give them the platform to share their stories, to talk about the impact of a woman in their life, whether their mother, their aunt, their sister, a colleague, a friend, whoever that person may be. It's just really important to highlight these stories. And so I would say that that's, in a nutshell, what Women's History Month really means to me when I reflect on this month that's coming up.
Yeah, and for AMCF, of our founders, half of them were women. Our current board president and our board vice president are women, and 5 out of 7 of our board members are women. So we really appreciate the work that they all do, and without them, we wouldn't be as vibrant of a community foundation. So, really appreciate all the women on our team and all the fantastic work that they do. In terms of Ikram Foundation, why don't you share a little bit more about kind of its history, why it got started, and kind of go into the programs and services?
Sure, I would love to. And hats off to your organization for all the women that are represented and the work that they do. I definitely uh, can see, even in our board is mostly women, and what that impact can have in an organization like both of ours. So going back to Ikram Foundation and when it started, so I've been in this position for about 4 years now. We started this organization 6 years ago with our co-founder and chairperson, Dr. Ilham Al-Talib, who's a local scholar in our community here in Northern Virginia. And she started the organization with our first executive director, and we truly carry on in her legacy. Iman al-Shingiti, she was a community member who was a mother who, after her children had both grown and gone back to school, was ready to go back to school herself. So she went back to school after the age of 60, and she got her bachelor's degree, went on and got her master's degree in social work. And after that, was looking for an organization to work for. And the inspiration of Ikram was born from her work and her dedication to the community, as well as Dr. Ilham Al Talib. They laid all this, a strong foundation for the organization, decided to focus on this demographic that's so often overlooked of divorced and widowed Muslim women. And when they started Ikram, Iman Shingiti, subhanAllah, after 6 months of laying all the groundwork, starting all the hard work to get Ikram running, she fell ill and passed away. Allah
Hmm,
yarhamha.
wow.
So we really, when we talk about legacy, we really carry her legacy very close to our hearts because she was a woman who went back to school, was committed to the community, and really wanted to start an organization that made an impact to a community of women who are often marginalized and overlooked. So we do have a very inspiring story about how Ikram started, and we hold that very close to our hearts when we decided to continue her work and continue the impact that she had worked so hard to start when with Ikram Foundation. So after Iman Shingiti passed away, we had another wonderful executive director, Mariam Azimi, and she continued to do the work of expanding the work that we do and letting people know we exist. So this is why we're also so happy to be on here today, because part of smaller organizations struggle is to also get the word out, and that's how we started at the beginning is word of mouth when it came to getting applications, collecting donations, letting people know that an organization like ours focuses on such a defined mission and vision. And I've been carrying on, that work ever since I came on to Ikram Foundation. And we found, again, now that we've been around for 6 years, we've helped over 94 women apply and get scholarships for education. And those scholarships range from bachelor's degree scholarships. We also provide scholarships for vocational programs or certification programs. And when we started the organization, we used to also assist with master's programs because we know that for a single woman who's divorced or widowed, especially if she's a single mom, that education piece can really make a difference when it comes to your earning capability, finding gainful employment, and really being able to stand on your 2 feet. And then what
Hmm.
ends up happening is this wonderful cycle or circle of, community where these women are now coming back to us and donating or spreading the word or letting people know that an organization like ours exists. So we've been working to try to find out, what the best programs are, what schools to partner with, how to really work with the clients. We really like to have a client-centered approach at Ikram. So we do work case by case. We take on each client. We have an intake process. If they're not sure where they want to start their journey, we work with certain schools in the area or the area that they're from to make sure that we're really investing those funds in the right program so that again they can become gainfully employed down the road.
Yeah, so really your previous experience as a caseworker definitely came into play here as well. And can you tell us about that trajectory of your career? Like, you started off as a caseworker doing more around programs, but then got involved with fundraising, and now you're an executive director. For people who are interested in either one of those types of roles, what would you say has been your favorite experiences of each of them?
Yeah, so that definitely has been my trajectory, and it's been really rewarding again. And I'm really blessed to have this position right now that I'm in. I would say that, this work is challenging, and I think that it can be a really lonely place when people don't speak about that aspect of it. It's important to talk about how there is a lot of secondhand trauma that happens when you're exposed to the realities of a lot of these stories. And it's really important to just keep that in mind. But as long as you have the right tools to know who to reach out to if you need to collaborate, to partner, to have discussions, dialogue is really powerful in a space where a lot of subjects might be taboo. Just keep all of, have a toolbox. I think that that's what's important. I've been blessed with many wonderful individuals in the community that I'm in. I grew up here. I taught Sunday school here. So I have a lot of individuals that I can reach out to, that I can ask for assistance, that I can ask for guidance throughout this process of first starting as a caseworker and then moving into fundraising. And I studied psychology and communications. So that kind of worked well for me. So I was able to tap into both of those areas of study throughout that journey. And now, as an executive director, to your point, that case working piece has really helped me strengthen that part of having a client centered approach. If you love to work with people, if you love to see the fruit of your work when it comes to investing in people, I definitely suggest looking into working with nonprofit organizations, looking into social work, looking into even if you want to volunteer, it's a great way to be connected to your community. I think a lot of times our communities have bubbles or circles, and it's hard to move forward all in all if we're not connected specifically to the most vulnerable in our community. I really think it's a Islamic principle, in my opinion, to uplift and really invest in those in our community who are often marginalized, and rather than just categorize individuals as, oh, these are the needy, this is where zakat, this is where sadaqah. I think we really can do a better job at, touching into that Islamic principle of one ummah or one community and connecting with these individuals. And a wonderful way to do that is working with, in certain organizations that work within these communities, because what you end up understanding and realizing is that we're not sectioned off and their struggles can be our struggles. And when we really have that principle in mind, we're really able to invest in these members of the community and move forward and grow. And again, it really is all cyclical in nature. So, and the good you put out in the world, inshallah, will come back to you. So I definitely if recommend or encourage individuals who might be interested to even start off by volunteering, start off by inquiring in local organizations about the work that they do. Keep in mind that it might be challenging, but it's super, super rewarding.
Yeah, thank you for that. And, I hope that the more nonprofit organizations talk about this, the more volunteer opportunities there are, the more ways people can get engaged in the work. And I think, especially for small organizations like ours, every volunteer is critical. Every little bit more that we can do makes such a big difference. And when you're talking about impact, you've been able to help over 90 women. With that extra volunteer, you'll get to that 100th, you'll get to that thousandth, and so many more down the line. So you mentioned earlier as well about different partnerships and collaboration. And of course, we're always happy to collaborate with nonprofit organizations and bring them on the podcast. But one of the ones that I noticed last year that Ikram Foundation did was with a continuous charity. So can you tell us a little bit more about the Fund to Her Future scholarship campaign?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So, 2020 was a challenging year for so many of us, especially as nonprofit organizations, really having to go back to the drawing board and navigate around, the fact that there's a pandemic that hit us and that's going to affect our donors. And there's also donor fatigue. There's so many moving parts when it came to that pandemic, when we look at our small nonprofit organizations. So, one of the things that we did is wanting to look into partnerships. So we even coined the last end of 2020 as like, we're going to have this be our focus are going to be partnerships. And one of those partnerships that actually came about as a result of our advisory board member, Lisa Vogel. So she connected us directly to a continuous charity and the team there so that we can come together as two organizations who invest in education, believe in the power of education, and know that it can be a very expensive journey for so many people. let's work together to focus on a demographic that, ACC was doing so well with so many applications that they were giving out, but we wanted to work together to focus on this demographic of divorced and widowed Muslim women. So we joined hands at the tail end of 2020 to work on this project called Fund Her Future, and it was a really wonderful way for two organizations that were focused on education to come together and focus on this demographic and really let's talk about the numbers when it came to single women, and the cycle and really on being on the brink of poverty, right? A lot of times people think, well, and this is why we really focus on this group is because they're so often overlooked as a group that maybe doesn't receive donations or funding, and a lot of them really are fighting, that cyclical poverty and wanting to really focus on investing in their children. So that's really how Fund Her Future was born. We talked about creating interest-free loans for divorced and widowed Muslim women. So this will give them the impact to take ownership of that education. And what's wonderful about working with ACC is that when it comes to paying back the loan, we work with the clients again, like client-centered approach. We're making sure that the payback term is something that works for the clients, but also choosing the right programs for them to invest in when it comes to education. So we're really excited about this partnership. We're tying, we're bringing in the last few details so we can start taking our first clients in as we speak. But we had a launch good up, and you can still donate towards the cause if you're interested in interest-free loans for divorced or widowed Muslim women. And if you're interested in giving to scholarships, you can also donate directly to Ikram. So that was a great partnership. I'm really excited to kick it off with taking in our first clients, inshallah.
Inshallah. That's really exciting. And one of the things that I want to focus on, you mentioned that this all came about from a suggestion from an advisor. So talk to us about like the importance of having those champions close to your organization, whether they're a board member, an advisory member, and kind of how you engage the leadership of the organization to come up with these programs and goals.
Yes, I love the word that you use, champions, right? We like to use that word when it comes to our campaigns. Who's going to champion this campaign? Who's going to be a champion for our cause? And Lisa Vogel is truly a champion for the work that she's doing with us at Ikram Foundation. She's a single mother herself, and we actually decided to start this advisory board recently because we have a wonderful board of directors. And that board of directors was part of the group that originally founded Ikram as part of the community. So there are women in our community who have a wonderful, vast network within this local Northern Virginia community. And we're really able to bring in from their wisdom and their work with other nonprofits to focus on certain donor groups. But what we were noticing is that we needed somebody who was more was connected to a wider range of community, and that's how we came about as well. Let's start an advisory board. And I think it's really important for nonprofits to really diversify who they're connecting with and diversify the roles that they offer for individuals in the community that might want to get involved with nonprofit organizations but don't know how to. And so Lisa was a great addition, or as our first member of our advisory board, and we're open actually this year to bringing on two new members. So if you're interested in joining us, please do reach out to us. But it really is important to find an individual who can offer you a different point of view or a different network, or might have a focus in an avenue that you as an organization are lacking in that. And so Lisa was able to bring in her network, was able to bring in her experience, her personal experience as a single mother who's divorced, and talk about with passion and work with passion when it comes to wanting to secure funding for us. She's working really well with a lot of different organizations and causes to bring out the word about Ikram and really show the importance of that education piece, right? When we talk about a divorced or widowed Muslim woman, there's so many pieces to her journey. And unless you're somebody who's gone through that experience, it's hard for you to put yourself in her shoes. And I think it's important to also uplift individuals who have gone through the experience and say, well, let's give you the platform to talk about that from your personal experience. So again, really important to bring in individuals on any level, whether it's a volunteer, an advisory board member, board of director. We know at nonprofits, there's a lot of different levels of leadership, and it's important to engage those levels of leadership and invite um, as they say, new blood into the work that you do, and not shy away from it, because a lot of times in Muslim nonprofits, we kind of get stuck in our ways. And it's hard for us to, maybe let go, or reach out to new individuals. But what we've found at Ikram is when we did that, we've gotten a lot of great support from the community at large, and we're really grateful for that.
That's really inspiring, and Lisa is such a great ambassador. So I'm glad that you guys were able to connect, and she's already been such a wonderful resource to Ikram Foundation. You've offered multiple times for people to volunteer and get involved. So on Instagram, you can find Ikram Foundation at ikram.foundation. And their website is ikramus.org. That's IKRAMUS.org. What are some other things that, if people were just passing by, or what your typical elevator pitch is in terms of, again, why it's critical to support organizations like Ikram Foundation, and you had an opportunity to share with someone, what would you tell them?
Education is power, and when you educate a woman specifically, the impact is tenfold. It's important to also understand at Ikram, or to know at Ikram, that 100% of your donations go directly towards the cause. So when you donate to Ikram, your entire donation will go to the education of a divorced or widowed Muslim woman. Another piece that I really want to bring to the table here is that the women we work with are so inspiring. And when you choose to invest in the education of a divorced or widowed Muslim woman, you'll find through the stories that we share at Ikram that these women are making impact even with the trauma they've gone through, even with the hardships that they're facing. All of the letters of recommendation, or the work that these women are doing in their schools, they're coming back with straight A's. They're coming back with finding ways to volunteer in their, educational programs, or give back. So it's not just the education piece. I mean, you're seeing a completely different person that's going from, a place of hardship to now being more confident in herself, to now making sure that her children will go back to school or complete their education. So you're really investing in a woman, breaking that cycle of poverty, and you're investing in the future of her children. So I really encourage individuals to remember Ikram when it comes to donating to a cause that really makes a direct impact in the life of somebody. And to also, if divorce and widowhood is very common now, and so if you know somebody who needs to apply, who has been wanting to apply to an educational program, but due to financial hardship is not able to, please encourage them to apply to Ikram as well. So we are open for applications. It's a rolling admission, so there's no specific time frame or deadline. And again, we're so client centered and client focused, so we will ensure that the process and the journey with Ikram is going to be a very uplifting and pleasant journey for the clients. And I also want to remind people that we work with a lot of times refugees, and we even work with, just sending them to English courses, and we also assist them with finding programs where they can learn how to write a resume. And so again, this is not just linear in that sense. There's so many
Right.
aspects of it. It's very multifaceted, and it really is an investment in an individual to better their life. So long elevator pitch, but
That's okay. There's a lot of floors. And, it's really empowering to hear the work that Ikram Foundation is doing. And I'm really glad that somebody of your caliber is leading the project. And I wish you all the best. And thank you so much for being on the show. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners?
yeah, I just want to thank you, Muhi, for doing this. Thank you for uplifting causes like ours. I think I mentioned at the beginning, and we even heard this in our course together, is that nonprofit leadership can be a lonely place. So I think it's also important to uplift the work that you're doing, and to appreciate you, and taking the time to focus on smaller organizations like ICRAM, and follow us, tag us, get involved with us. We're really excited to meet any newcomers. And Ramadan's right around the corner, so an early Ramadan Kareem to everyone.
Ramadan Mubarak. Wonderful. Well, again, thank you so much, Somayyah, and looking forward to seeing all the great work that Ikram Foundation will continue to do.
Thank you, Muhi.